first thing I'm doing is looking for ownership. So typically I'd be looking for inside ownership and a significant stake or percentage of ownership from a biotech insider. I'm also looking for proven pedigree, world-class pioneers, or some kind of indication of previous success. When I invested in PGEN at prices of around $1, I was investing in Randall Kirk, who has high inside ownership of the stock, both personally, which we can see right here, and also through Third Security LLC, which is an entity that he manages and controls. Through my research, I'd seen that Randall Kirk had worked in biotech and pharmaceuticals for around 40 years. And in that time, he'd amassed a net worth of $2.1 billion, according to Forbes. Another indication that I look for, which helps me to develop a level of conviction and want to invest in certain companies, is a partnership or ownership of the stock by another larger pharmaceutical company. So for example, when we look at PGEN right here, we can see that IBRX KG holds stock, and this indicates to me that there is credibility behind PGEN's leadership. You know, fundamentally, Merck would not be investing in a company if they didn't see some kind of opportunity, a level of credibility, or an indication that the leadership was kind of strong or world-class, if you like. And this is exactly the same strategy that I employed with Immunity Bio. You know, I was making entries in this stock at $1.50, at $2.50, at $3.50. My mean average entry is around $2.49. And again, I was investing with the leadership there. My first point of call was to look at the inside ownership of the stock. And as we can see, Patrick Soon-Shiong owns almost 28% of the stock personally. He also manages and controls these two entities right here. So California Capital Equity LLC and NantWorks LLC too. And Patrick Soon-Shiong is a pioneer and innovator. He's worked in the biotech industry for 35 years. He's built out pharmaceutical companies from scratch, as has Randall Kirk, and then sold them on, which is how they've both amassed these billions of dollars. You know, we can see right here that Patrick Soon-Shiong has amassed a net worth of $9.1 billion over the course of his career. And so one of the critical things to note about both Patrick Soon-Shiong and Randall Kirk is that they are owner-operators. They have significant amount of stock and they are intimately involved in the running of these companies. They're involved in the strategy, in the capital allocation and decision making in these respective companies. And this is something which I found in another company called Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals, which I've spoken about quite a lot on this channel. Now with Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals, they are in very, very early stages. This one requires a significant amount of patience. But with Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals, we can see right here that there's high inside ownership by two industry titans. We can see right here that Philip Frost owns 13.9% of Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals and Fred Hassan has 10%. We can also see right here that Philip Frost has been aggressively buying up the stock in November and December of 2025 and into February 2026 also. Like I was saying, this is my first point of call. This is the first thing I'm looking at. I'm really looking for an innovator, a pioneer, someone with experience, someone with a proven track record, preferably in the biotech industry, who has brought biotech startups, if you like, all the way through to getting their first treatments approved by the FDA. And this is where a lot of the money can be made when investing in these stocks. Philip Frost of Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals is a biotech industry veteran. He has a net worth of around $2.3 billion. And again, you know, he has this past track record where, for example, we can see here that he joined Key Pharmaceuticals in 1972, reformulated its asthma drug and sold the company in 1986 for $836 million. He also founded IBRX, a generic drug maker, in 1987 and sold it to Teva Pharmaceuticals for $7.6 billion in 2005. And Fred Hassan, again, you know, he's been described as one of the leading figures in global healthcare. He's held a number of influential and leadership positions, you know, the likes of Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Schering-Plough, Director of Amgen, and led a 6-year transformation of Schering-Plough from a company under severe stress into one of the highest performing companies in the research-based global pharmaceutical industry. And so essentially when I'm investing, you know, I'm looking for these individuals with this proven track record, with experience, with gravitas in the space. And essentially my investment is with them. My investment is in their mind, their ability to overcome challenges, you know, their grit, which is not necessarily something which can be seen in the financials of a business, if you like.